No.
Oh God.
You'll get fired.
What's up, Eurovision people? My name is Sean, and on my channel, I talk about all things Eurovision. One last time, because this is the first and only live stream this year where Eurovision is now behind us. Switzerland has won the 65th edition of Eurovision Song Contest. Yeah, 65th. Yeah. Nemo with the code.
No.
Yeah.
Isn't it like the 68th or 69th?
68. Yeah, 68.
This was
68?
68.
Wow. I am.
Next year in Switzerland, 69.
I am late. Oh, well. Switzerland has won.
69.
And we have lots to talk about. We're going to be breaking down the results from yesterday and from the semis during this hour that we're going to spend together. Once again, one last time. But before I do so, I can't pin any more content that's coming because I will be having a break. Of course, Eurovision season is now behind us. But everyone else, you're still invited to subscribe to my channel and get yourselves ready for next year, because Eurovision season starts sooner than we expected these days. So get yourself subscribed because you don't want to miss my content coming next year. And while you reminisce, while you endeavor in post-Eurovision depression, you might want to check out our previous live streams and my previous content from 2024. While you're at it, of course, pull up a drink. We are having a conversation about Eurovision results. Everyone is, I love it. I love it. We know the drill. We know the drill.
Giorgio, what the hell do you have
What
there?
was that bucket?
It's a massage.
Why do you have a bucket?
I didn't have a drink, so I just put on this one.
Oh, how dare you. Sean, kick him out now. He's not allowed. He hasn't qualified.
He broke the rules.
A lot of water.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see it. It was in the shots.
You saved yourself in the last second.
Aye. Listen, Switzerland has won, and I think this is the first time in a while where the betting gods winner did not end up winning Eurovision. What are our thoughts on Switzerland winning? I'm gonna break the code. Giorgio, you start.
I'm sure.
Well, first of all, where is? Oh, okay, there he is. I am not happy about this because they were fifth in the televote, and I feel like people at home are starting to feel scammed. Like, I was watching the results of the jury, and I was wondering how juries saw that and thought that was worth more points than Loreen. Loreen last year didn't win the televote, of course. She was second, but her song was ultimately a smash hit before and after the contest. She was a Eurovision legend. This year, if you know Nemo's story, you can tell what they're trying to do. But people at home just saw a grown man dressed as a little girl. And a lot of people were wondering what was going on. They were wondering why the jury was being so generous with them. I feel like all of this is intended to avoid a panic win of Israel, of Ukraine. So the worst has been avoided. But I feel like the people who are pretending to be happy about Nemo's victory, of course, those who didn't have them as the winner, are actually just relieved that it's not Ukraine or Israel. But for the people at home, and you can tell from the negative comments under the Nemo videos, it feels more like a scam, you know? It's like, what's the point in voting? What's the point in spending money on televoting when 185 jurors are going to decide the entire results anyway? I mean, fifth in televote is pretty low. People wanted someone else. And I feel like this win is not really deserved if it was decided once again by just the juries.
Okay. Ervin, what are we thinking?
I think it was a deserved winner, and as we said, like in the previous live streams as well, multiple times, it's like Switzerland is one of the biggest contenders to win, and they ended up winning. I wouldn't compare the jury results from Nemo to the ones of Lorraine. It's completely a different lineup. It's a completely different year, completely different songs. So it's not representative that way. it's just the total score, but the total score is based on that particular night and those particular songs. Everyone knew the rules. Everyone knew it's going to be 50% jury, 50% televoting. People who chose to televote, they knew the rules. They knew that their favorite might not win. So it is what it is.
Okay, it is what it is indeed. ESTON, what are we thinking about Switzerland winning?
Well, I mean, yeah, we can't say that it was undeserved. Nemo is a great vocalist, especially doing all the acrobatics, and still performing the song as it sounds in the studio cut. So good staging, good vocals. The song is something that people connected to. So yeah, I would say Switzerland is probably the winner. For me, of course, watching it from the big screen in Eurovision Village, when Switzerland got those points, I felt like zoned out of all the jubilating Swiss fans and just being devastated in my own bubble. And like, I literally did tear up, which doesn't happen often. But in the end, well, it is how it is. Still happy that Croatia got a good placement, and they are proud of what Marko did. And next year in Switzerland, we'll see. Probably they will have a great show as well. So good luck to them.
Well,
You think so?
I don't know about as well, but we'll get to that later. I obviously wanted Croatia. Eston and I have been in these streets for a very long time now, hoping that Croatia would take us to Zagreb, hoping that Baby Lasagna would give a win. We have been waiting for a Balkan win for a very long time. For most of us, it's considered a win from an Eastern European country as well. And I was very much hopeful we were going to get that. Switzerland, you can't say it's a bad song. You know, it's an immediate track. It's been up there in the bookies for a very long time. The stage performance, some people liked, some people were not so sure of. I think it came together on the final night. Eston keeps dying. Yeah, last night I think was Nemo's best performance, and I think the staging came together nicely, so I can't really resent it that much. However, we're gonna break down the jury and the televote later on, but just for Switzerland winning, I think okay, it could have been worse. As we very well know, it could have been worse. On Croatia, which was my winner, I am so proud of Baby Lasagna for winning the televote in this year. He did the impossible. He did what was not expected in the current climate. And even though Israel was there with lots and lots and lots of support, Croatia, with a great song, a great story, a great performance, and a great performer, still managed to win the hearts of Europe. And that gives me a little bit of faith in humanity.
You know what, Sean? What I love about Croatia's televote winner story is that Baby Lasagna is not signed to a major label. He wrote the song with his two hands. It's the only self-written song of the entire edition. It was good to root for an underdog, also coming from an underdog country. The main contender, Nemo, had a songwriting camp song, basically, where they made some edits when it came to Switzerland. They are from a major label, so I feel like if Baby Lasagna had won, if Croatia had won, then it would have been much better for the image of the contest. Because what I gathered from a lot of comments under the YouTube video of the code, a lot of people seem to think that this is like starting to become too much of a circus show. And some people were like, oh, Eurovision was always a circus show. But this thing will never change, especially if juries start rewarding songs like that. I feel like this is bad for the image of Eurovision in general.
let's break down the results a little bit. So in the final, obviously
Sean,
Switzerland
I'm
came
sorry.
first.
I just have to interrupt you for just 1 second.
Go ahead.
Because Baby Lasagna is actually signed for a major record label. He did write the song by himself. However, he is signed to Universal Music Croatia and Universal Music in general. So he did have support from a record label, but that doesn't change the fact that like he really did like one hell of a job, and he absolutely deserved to basically come on top in the public vote. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's break down the results a little bit. So rounding out the top 5, we had Ukraine, France, and Israel. I was always expecting Switzerland to top the jury vote and France to come second personally. And I was expecting, I think we were all expecting Israel to destroy the televote, even though they didn't win it. My takeaway from this top 5 is the incredible result that Ukraine got. I think the televote for Ukraine was huge. I personally didn't expect 300 points. I expected something 200, but 300 was huge. But at the end of the day, I can see why. I think lots of casual Eurovision viewers really, really connected with that song. And most people in Malta, certainly, who watch Eurovision on the night, they loved Ukraine. And the people I was watching Eurovision with over here, they loved Ukraine. And Malta actually gave Ukraine 12 points, which I really, really wasn't expecting. ESTON, what is your takeaway from these top 5 for now?
I mean, like I've said before as well, when Ukraine could come 6th last year with a song that shouldn't be in the top 10, top 15 even, maybe they would have sneaked into the final if they would have to qualify. When they came 6th with that song, then with this one, top 3 was basically almost guaranteed. Because they still have the support, political support. A lot of Ukrainians live in other countries. They can now vote for Ukraine. You can especially see that in the Baltic countries as well. So there is the aspect of political support. So last year they got a good result with a much worse song. This actually is an excellent song that would have done really well anyway. But if you add the political aspect, then it totally makes sense why they got such a big televote. I don't know how much the now new rule impacted it, that you can vote from the very beginning. I think they would have still had a massive televote nonetheless.
Yeah.
And the staging was excellent. The vocals were excellent. Everything was there.
Indeed. Ervin, you have been a #1 supporter of Ireland since the very beginning.
Yep.
And Ireland came in 6th place. And I'm glad to share the happiness with you. What are we thinking about?
Thank you.
6th in the jury and 6th in the televote.
I mean, they totally deserved it. And I love that many people actually connected to it. I gotta say that the staging was like, in my view, this was the best staging of this year's contest. ESTON, you can roll your eyes. I'm sorry. I genuinely do feel that. I'm being very.
Or your drink, girl.
I'm being very subjective here. Yes, I was absolutely rooting for Ireland next to Slovenia, obviously, and I was super happy with their results.
I wonder why.
Yeah, on Ireland,
No one will
everyone knows I was never a fan of the song, but you know, sometimes you have, I get it. I get this feeling sometimes when, even though I don't like a song, I'm just happy for its success. And that is the feeling of something correct and something needed. And I feel like that is what Ireland was this year. I'd like to consider myself a mature Eurovision fan. So I'm not sad for my number 35 out of 37 coming 6th, purely because I do agree the staging was fantastic, and more than that, Bambi Thug has shown everyone that they are an incredible artist with values with morals, and that they are not scared to stand up for what they believe in, no matter how unfashionable that is. And just for that, they have my respect. Giorgio, what are your standouts from this top 10?
On Ireland, you mean?
Anyone in the top 10 in general?
Oh, anyone in the top 10? Well, first of all, very surprised to see Portugal in the top 10. They kind of got 0 points from the televote, apart from countries where they have diaspora. So Spain, Luxembourg, and France. No, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and France. Spain given nothing. Well, that was surprising for me. I was expecting the juries to root for them, not that much. Sweden also came top 10 somehow. They were lucky. And who else was in the top 10? Oh, Armenia. Armenia was the biggest surprise, a very pleasant surprise. I feel like, Sean, you've been saying it for years. Armenia needs to send some folk flavor, and you were right. This is completely deserved, and I can only be happy for them. And they were having decent results with perfectly produced pop songs in 2022 and 2023. But people actually want some folk flavor for Armenia. That's what they expect. And I'm glad that they catered to people's taste. So very happy for Ladaniva. And you guys need to check out their album because it's fantastic. All of it. And, there's also Italy in the top 10, right? 7th might be a little bit lower than we expected. I was expecting 4th to 6th. So we can still be happy with this result. I mean, why complain? It's still a top 10. It doesn't break our streak that we've had since 2017.
I think Italy's performance. Italy is technically my #1 song this year.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was rooting for Croatia all around, Italy, the studio cut, it just hits me like no other. But I have to admit, when I saw the performance, there was something missing there. And I finally put my finger on it last night. Angelina Mango doesn't need to be choreographed. She doesn't need to be told where to step, what to do, how to... The charm we saw at Sanremo was her strength. And I feel like it was lost a little bit with this choreography. I absolutely hated the choreography, actually. I thought it was very poor.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, and it just felt too programmed. And I think the Italian, well, certainly in Angelina Mango, but she's an Italian. So the Italian charm is around spontaneity. And I was missing that spontaneity. It just came across as a little bit too programmed. And I think it missed the mark a little bit when it, specifically with the televote, when it came to Italy's results. But
is it first down
Armenia
points since 2012?
Right.
Yeah.
With regards to Armenia, I actually made a bet. I'm not endorsing gambling, but I made a bet that Armenia would be in the top 10, and I'm glad I did because I can pay for my drink. This is it's great that you bring up this point of expectancy, because I think this is a theme that is going to be recurring in conversations around Eurovision predictions in the few years to come. This is what people expect from Armenia, and when people get something they expect from a country, they vote for it. I was watching Eurovision with non-fans last night, fans and non-fans, and the two hottest countries out there, apart from Croatia, were Armenia and Greece. And Greece, even though they just missed the top 10, Greece came 11th with a very, very good score from the televote. We've been talking about the performance being underwhelming, and I think with all of that being said, 11th for Greece and 8th place in the televote was great. And I think it came down to that level of expectancy. This is more or less what people expect from Greece. Any other standouts?
But it was fine.
I liked the performance, but the general consensus was that it needed more.
I mean, she's a 30-year-old woman acting like Ariana Grande a few years ago, so I can see why many people were put off by the performance.
It suits her. I could never tell she's 36. I think she's doing it great.
No, I can see why many people found it annoying, but I don't know if Greeks are actually happy with 11th place,
I think they should be.
I mean, they obviously wanted it to win, but that was never going to happen, so...
No.
Eston, I'm actually curious to see what you think about Greece, because, hey, You were wrong on Greece. I was wrong on Ireland this year, so we can shake hands and move on. But what did you think of Greece's final result?
Yeah, well, obviously Greece and Ireland are my last place this year. So with Ireland, I can see the staging was it suited the song. I can't say that I enjoyed it or liked it. No, absolutely not. I hated it, especially the sound. But it was suitable to the song and to the genre, so it was really well performed, well made, and for people that like that, I can understand why they voted for it quite heavily. I was really surprised by the jury vote going to Ireland so strongly. That was a huge surprise to me. But Greece, I just think fell flat. I didn't hate it. It was okay. Like seeing the performance, hearing the live vocals, I could tolerate that. But I can see why it maybe did a little bit worse than people thought. Otherwise, the top 10, the only real big surprises are Portugal and Ireland for me. Armenia slightly as well, but Sean, like you said, the public was always going to go for it, and the jury actually really responded as well.
I was surprised Armenia did well in the jury, actually. I was pretty surprised by that. I was expecting more from the public.
But the vocals were incredible as well. She didn't miss a note,
hands down.
And the performance, everything worked.
Hands down. I just want to make a point about Sweden. I also expected Sweden to be in the top 10, and I did expect Sweden to get that kind of televote result. And I'm not sure when was the last time that happened. Maybe Ervin with the numbers can take us through. When was the last time songs 1 and 2 in the final both came inside the top 10?
1 and 2. That hasn't happened in years.
Yeah. I can't.
I mean, usually they
actually,
put.
I think 2011. Bosnia.
No, 2011 had a Paradise Oscar. That was not top 10. It was 21.
Sorry, say again?
2011, you said?
Yes.
Number 1 was Paradise Oscar. He came 21st.
I don't think it happened.
1 and 2. I said about 2 and 3 because because 2 was Bosnia and 3 was.
Yeah. Denmark. 1 and 2.
Usually they put some country that is gonna be dead anyway, and that is not gonna do well. This time they put Ukraine second, which was obviously gonna do well, and Sweden as the opener was always gonna be very high in the jury vote and respectable in the televote as well. So in that sense, they just, with these countries, it makes sense. Usually they've looked at it differently and put different countries there. So this year it just went like that. So
absolutely.
I feel like we didn't discuss about one elephant in the room, which is Israel. I would like to say that I'm very happy that they didn't win the televote. This legitimizes the fact that the public strongly wanted Croatia even more, like to the point that any political support, any diaspora, which will be the argument for Ukraine doing so much better than anyone expected. Like, Israel did amazingly. They have support. We knew that. But the fact that Croatia trumped even that with a song that came out of nowhere, an artist who was a drummer until a couple of years ago and now debuted with this song, that is fantastic. I also feel like the jury purposefully downvoted Israel because their names are published, so many of them, especially in Western European countries, probably didn't want death threats. I feel like it was objectively a jury-based song and performance, the one that Israel had. And, I wasn't expecting the votes to be that low. I was expecting something like 100, but not 52.
But most of the points that Israel got from the jury was from Western Europe.
I know, but it was from a few countries, like 8 from Cyprus, 8 from Germany, 8 from Norway, but most countries just blanked them. In a normal year, that song would have gotten far more jury points.
I agree. I agree that this song is usually jury bait, but for once, I mean, I'm a bit torn on this issue. I'm glad the juries. I'm glad Israel came where it came with the juries, because it's very difficult to distance the song, the representation, from all the background context. Come on, we can be as objective as we can try to be. If I was a jury member on that, I always had Israel in my top 20 this year, and many of those top 20 didn't make the final. So if I was a juror, I might have had Israel in the top 10. However, I would say, hand on heart, I would have ranked Israel last, because I find it hard as a person, as a music commentator, to distance myself, the song and the performance, from the representation of the background context that's been given. So in a way, I'm glad that the juries that didn't rank Israel must have had some real emotions into ranking the song where they did.
I feel like it was more for their personal safety.
But to be honest, we don't know who ranked who. We know who the juries are, but we don't know.
But the names are out there.
Yeah, but
To be honest, I expected the jury vote to be much higher for Israel, because you realistically only need one jury member out of 5 to put it first, and basically points guaranteed. So the fact that a lot of countries gave it 0, yeah, I think maybe they did consider that it's not just the song, they are actually voting for the country.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely. For me, one thing that I can talk about the televote with relation to Israel getting so much is faith in humanity is restored, in my opinion. And this, to me, subjective, but this is, to me, the reason, because so many people said, thank God for the juries this year. Well, guess what? Israel didn't win the televote. They came close, but they didn't. So those people who were in the camp of last year where, listen, this is getting ridiculous, I think we don't need the juries around, I think those people should still be in that camp this year, because we still didn't get the televote winner winning Eurovision. And guess what? The political winner was not the televote winner, even though there was all of that.
And last year, Loreen was second in the public vote. This year, Switzerland was 5th, so much further down. But one more thing that when it comes to Israel, a lot of the people that support Palestine or want to vote against Israel, they just boycotted the contest altogether. So if you look at the Icelandic public vote as well, 8 points to Israel. That would not have happened if the Palestine supporters actually watched and voted in Eurovision.
Ireland,
so I think that's one reason why Israel did so well in the televote as well. Many people boycotted Eurovision this year, especially in countries like Iceland.
And you know what about this, Eston? An argument that I've seen, like a conspiracy that I've seen, is that Israel actually bought SIM cards. And I was like, why would they do that? Like, they won the televote in big countries, like in Germany, France, Italy, Sweden. If they wanted to buy SIM cards, they would have done so in smaller countries like Slovenia, Serbia, like smaller markets. Like, that was organic support. Of course, it was political. That song probably would have come top 10 in a normal year with more jury and less televote. But they didn't buy any SIM cards. It was just pro-Israel people voting for it.
Yeah,
and they didn't get 12 in Azerbaijan, and they always vote for Israel. So,
Ervin,
this SIM card buying story is about 72 years old, because that's one of the excuses that fans give themselves to explain why a certain song did well. Because they bought SIM cards to vote for themselves. No, they did not. The same way people were accusing Azerbaijan in the past. They bought SIM cards. They accused Ukraine in the past. They bought SIM cards. That doesn't happen, and it's not going to have that much of an influence on the total results.
It might in tiny countries, like in Albania. The votes are €1 per vote. People are not very rich in Albania, so you can buy 100 SIM cards and easily get at least 8 points in the televote. But who does that?
More often than not, the Albanian televote does not work properly. So the Albanian result, especially in the years of televoting only, might refer back to the backup jury. So it doesn't matter.
You're right.
And for me, this is just like one of the fan excuses to explain to themselves like why someone did well or why someone did badly. That's me personally.
We knew Israel was going to get that televote, SIM cards or no SIM cards. I want to button it up on Israel because they don't deserve that much time. And I want to say to anyone who's watching, come and interact with us in the chat and ask us any questions you would like us to answer. We have our regular guest Onik from Armenia. Hey, Barev, congratulations to you guys. Bettina from Germany. And speaking of Germany, we gotta talk about Germany just a little bit because they came 12th. And I'm just gonna say, I wasn't expecting Germany to do incredibly well with this song. However, what I take away from this, seeing what Germany had in the past, Lord of the Lost, even Malik Harris, and Jamie Lee. Germany has had different songs, whether you thought they were good or not. To me, what this says, and Germany's high jury score is, hi Germany, this is Eurovision calling. Please send us your safest, most boring songs ever, because you're gonna get something from the jury anyway. This is what I'm. Ervin, I see you rolling your eyes. I'm curious.
I disagree with that very strongly because, Lord of the Lost finishing last, that hurts a little bit because I quite enjoyed that song. However, Jamie Lee, I can't remember his name right now. I'm really sorry. Rockstars.
Malik Harris.
Malik Harris, yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Those songs just didn't go anywhere, and Germany deserves normally the results that they get. And this year they actually sent a super radio friendly song, which I can actually hear in literally radio stations in any country being played. I heard it on the radio actually, and it makes sense that the juries voted for it. Isaac had a lot of power. There was so much power in his voice. The staging was quite interesting. You were not expecting that sort of staging for that kind of a song. And he just really sold it. And it was a jury-friendly performance, so I can see why he did so well in the juries. I think he finished 10th or 9th. He scored low in the televote, which was somewhat also expected. But I'm really glad that Germany actually finished on the left-hand side of the scoreboard with this song. I thought it was.
But would we have guessed that Germany does better in the televote than the likes of Spain, Austria, Norway, and the UK?
No.
I mean, that for me is surprising.
The only surprising part of that for me is that it did better than Spain. I'm not surprised at all that it did better than Austria or the UK.
But you know what about Germany's performance? They had live backup vocals, one of the very few this year. Mm-hmm. Everything else is pre-rec. Even Switzerland had vocals.
Greece had live backing. Finland had live backing.
Greece also had a lot of pre-recorded backing because the whole Tata part that was all pre-recorded.
The Tata part was, but there was a backing vocalist singing.
Germany was full live, right?
Singing with.
That was impressive. I have lots of admiration for that guy.
I mean, it's arguably, yes, of course, no one is going to deny that it's a very radio-friendly song, but also, come on, let's be honest, it's very safe. If safety gets you to the top in the jury vote, sure, be safe. But I'm just asking myself, if I was a producer, if I was a Eurovision, I don't know, EBU, well, not even EBU, something. If I'm a Eurovision fan, is that the message I want to send to countries? Send me a radio-friendly song, and you'll do it in the jury. I'm not sure that's the right message. And yes, it's radio-friendly, but I don't know. I kind of want to switch stations. It's
that's It's up
I
to
have
you.
to
Yeah,
disagree
yeah,
on that
but
one if you play.
It's Imagine Dragons.
I don't want to imagine no dragons. I want to switch stations. I want to switch stations. Listen, moving on from Germany, I'm gonna ask you guys one question, and we're gonna have it around each. From the results last night, one surprise. It could be positive, it could be negative, and just one surprise. And I'm gonna start with ESTON and try to make it a country we haven't talked about.
Finland's extremely low televote. 31 points, even 2 points less than Estonia. That was shocking. They had a pretty long pause before they announced that point as well. So we were already discussing, like, okay, what is Finland getting? Like, somewhat around 100, probably. But then they keep waiting and waiting. Okay, might it be even bigger? 200 something. Really? 31? 31 points. 31. And the running order slot was excellent. They were between two ballots. I was really expecting Finland to do really well in the
Serbia got more
volleyball,
televote
at
than Finland.
least 100. Yeah. So that was one of the shocks. Spain's low televote as well, but I was really expecting more from Finland.
Yeah. Ervin, what about you?
I'll mention two, but I'll be very quick with both of them. My biggest surprise was Luxembourg's 13th place, when anything above 25th would be a surprise for me. And the second one...
Did I not tell you the juries are going to pad it?
I knew, however, I still think it's very undeserved.
Over
the second one,
and orange juice at Copenhagen Airport. There are security cameras. I said it.
I know.
The juries are going to pad it.
Yeah. The second one was I expected a much higher score from the public, not from the juries, from the public to Lithuania. I expected Lithuania to get at least around, not way too many. I expected around, like, let's say 100 to 120 maybe. But I was surprised that they only got 58.
But they still came top 10 with the lowest ever 10th figure for the televote.
Yeah.
People are getting more and more polarized.
Especially this year, you know, like, I think Israel, again, I hate to give them another minute in my live stream, but those 323 points had to come from so many countries. Let's be real. This wouldn't have gotten 323 points in 2021. So they ate up points from all sorts of countries. And I think that explains Finland getting 31.
The same way in 2021, this would have gotten more than 52 points from the jury. So
yeah, everything will be
back. 2021 randomly. I'm not thinking of what happened in 2021.
I know, but just like,
yeah. And your second surprise? Oh, you said Luxembourg, right? Giorgio, your surprise.
Well, it's a surprise, and it's also like the second result I'm most disgusted by, which is Norway's last place. This is awful for the future, because it means that Norway will go back to slickly produced meme songs, which I won't complain about. I like their meme songs, but I love the Scandinavian flavor that goes ahead. And also, this also means that Sweden will never, ever, ever take a risk and send something remotely folk.
In 50 years, sure.
In 50 years, maybe.
I mean, I agree.
The way I look at it, sorry.
Go. I just agree. Yeah.
Okay. No, the way that I saw this was that, like, Norway was the accidental last place, and that a lot of people, even though this was sort of a mix of like something ethnic, something Nordic, and something very rocky. And I think that the rocky vote massively went to Ireland, and everyone forgot about Norway,
Croatia.
And this is why they're just the accidental last place.
I actually kind of wanted to see who voted for them because they only got 4 points, 3 from Ukraine and 1 from Finland. So Sweden, Denmark, Iceland gave them nothing in the televote. The Balkans
agree
gave
with
them
Ervin.
in the televote. They usually appreciate this type of stuff. I'm shocked, for one.
I agree. Yeah, I do think this was the accidental last place. And again, you know, taking from what I said about Germany, I'm really sad that this happened to Norway, because the message that this sends to Norway is, don't send us risks, don't send us ethnic stuff, don't send us folk stuff, because you're gonna get last place. And we know that if there's one country who does not want to add any more last place finishes in their history, it is Norway. I'm really sad for Gotte.
And the result.
This wasn't deserved at all. However, I will say, I had a feeling that Norway wasn't going to do as well as I wanted it to on the night of the semi-final. That performance was just so perfect and so perfect, really. So technically great. No, there was nothing bad about it. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe because we've seen it since the national final, MGP, but it just didn't stand out for me. And on the semi-final, the people I watched, they found themselves on their phone, but it was mostly because they wanted to see how much Israel actually got booed on Twitter. And the people I watched Eurovision with last night, they just talked through Norway. So I don't know, maybe running order didn't help, but you know, the only song that scored less than Norway came before it in the final. So I don't know what happened, but I agree this was an accidental last place.
But I mean, even I really enjoyed the performance in the end, and I wasn't a huge fan of it in the beginning.
Yeah, you weren't.
So I really liked the performance. I really liked the song, and I enjoyed watching it. But I do agree that this somehow didn't have big enough impact, and it got lost in the mix somehow. So yeah, I'm undeserved, absolutely. But these things happen. A lot of the lost was an undeserved last place as well, and we have many of those that are just, it happened, shit happens. You know,
shit happens indeed. And this is the first time a semi-finalist has come last in a very long time, I believe. The last time this happened, as far as I can remember, is 2013,
maybe.
Maybe.
really
Ireland?
that long ago?
Yeah, 13.
14
yeah.
was France. 15 was
I
Austria.
went through them in my mind. It's 13. It's 13.
Yeah.
It's 13. My surprise, it's not really a surprise, but I didn't expect it to go this bad, but I'm glad it happened. The United Kingdom getting 0 points. That performance was disgusting. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not prude. I like a little bit of fruitiness when the occasion comes, when the occasion calls for it. But this was just so vulgar, in my opinion. And the people I've watched Eurovision with, they were like, why are we watching gay porn on the Eurovision stage? This is so out of place. And I don't want to go all William Lee Adams on us, but it is kind of a family show, or at least it is sold as a family show. Whether or not it is like that, we can argue on a different day. But the truth of the matter is you have all sorts of audiences. You don't have a PG-13 or a PG-15 sign. I think the UK took it too far with the staging. I appreciate the ambition, but Dani Saucedo Dandi Danza meets a very, very, very messier version of Ronella Hayati. If you could even believe it could get any messier. I'm sorry. This was a deserved 0 points, but it was definitely not one I was expecting. And I'm curious to see how this is going to affect the UK's participation, certainly with bigger artists wanting to do Eurovision. I'm not one who necessarily wants to see bigger artists from any country, really. I don't think it's about the magnitude of the artist, but it's interesting. I will give a shout out to Slovenia. I wasn't really surprised. I was just glad that they made it into the final, but I have to give a shout out to Slovenia. I think Raven deserved much better. And also Estonia deserved so much more. And I don't think Cyprus needed to come 15th.
Huh. I thought it was good. I mean, I know you disagree, but I thought that the choreo was better than Georgia's. There was more movement. You know, she was energetic. And you said that you could barely hear her live vocals, but yesterday, like, she was actually, like, the backing vocals were actually much lower in volume. Like, you could hear her voice.
To be honest, I didn't pay attention, so I can't disagree with you. Especially between Switzerland and Armenia. I was really not paying attention to Cyprus last night. Listen, let go.
Yeah, when it comes to Estonia, I just flew back from Copenhagen today, actually on the same flight as the performers and the whole section. So I had a pretty long discussion with Romo from Pulup as well. They were really happy with the results. We were both happy that we at least didn't get 0 from the jury, which I was afraid of. And they knew that the vocals were off. He said himself that none of them are singers. None of them have any singing background or education. And in the rehearsals without public, they were on point. But when they performed in front of the audience, they sang much higher, and they knew they were off pitch. So in the end, I think this is a respectable result, and no one in Estonia is really mad about it. So 20th is okay. In the mix that we had this year as well, 32 is not actually, well, it was 33. It was the 13th biggest televote, so
wow,
it's very much okay.
Yeah.
Latvia set up the scoreboard with the televote. Damn.
To think we were, well, not me personally, because I was always assuring ESTON, but to think most of us were thinking that Estonia could have missed out on the final.
Mm-hmm. I thought that. Yeah. I thought that actually.
7th.
Oh God, I'm so happy about Latvia. Like, you
no,
I've been saying it.
You did not think they would end 6. You had them out of your prediction for the semi-final.
Me? No. I was predicting Latvia. Ervin, you can confirm.
Estonia. I'm saying.
Oh, Estonia, yes. I'm talking about Latvia. Like, they comfortably qualified. I'm so happy for them. I'm happy for Georgia as well, even though they came pretty low. But people were distracted by baby lasagna.
Georgia, yeah, that's what it was.
Oh my God, we haven't discussed France.
I want to ask a better question, I think. But we can talk about France if we have time. He came fourth, and it was predictable.
Just like Mengoni, it was the same song, the same vibe. He got the same result.
Just a better staging, and everything was better. But
I'm curious to know. We've seen the semi-final results. Are there any surprises for you guys there? And I'm just gonna say this, and I would leave. I think the first semi-final results were actually pretty justified. And I say that as an Azerbaijan stan, but I had to let it go. Staging sucked. And the semi-final 2 results, in my opinion, were even more justified. I'm talking about 11 downwards. And I'm going to be unpopular again when I say this, especially with my people. But guys, Sarah Bonici's song was terrible. Sarah Bonici's song was terrible. No wonder we came last. People don't watch Eurovision like this. Most of them actually watch Eurovision like this.
Okay? Was the last song
is if the song is not going to attract you, it ain't gonna get votes from nobody. And we're so lucky that we got 13 points there, because as good as the staging was, Sarah's an excellent artist, one of the best people we had represent us in terms of vocal and dance ability at the same time. That is the hardest thing to do in the world, by the way. The song, where is the song? And that is where I'm looking at you, delegation. I'm looking at you, songwriting camps that actually we spent so much money on them, and they got us last place in the semi-final for the 4th time in the last 7 years. In the last 7 years, Malta came last 4 times in the semi-final televote. Surprises from the semi, ESTON.
I mean, again, Norway 10th, barely qualifying over Czechia. I would consider that a surprise. Latvia 7th, definitely in a televote only semi-final. That was very surprising because somehow people connected to Latvia. I'm not mad about it, but just surprised. Anything else? I mean, yeah, Belgium fell flat. The vocals were off, and it just didn't work. I love the studio cut, but the performance, nothing about it worked, and he came across as kind of arrogant, and people couldn't connect with him. So, yeah, in the end, not that surprising. Yeah, San Marino, Albania, Malta lost. No surprises there. And semi-final 1. Yeah, I mean, Cyprus somehow did really well. So, but other than that, yeah, Serbia as well. I mean, I was thinking it might be out. It qualified quite barely in front of Australia. So
thank God Slovenia, Serbia, and
nothing
Croatia
else.
were in the same semi-final. Thank God.
Yeah,
I'm your best friend.
the Balkans got lucky.
Ervin, any standouts from the semi-final results? More about countries we haven't talked about.
Damn it.
Nothing left.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I mean, Iceland lost, Azerbaijan, Moldova clearly out. I mean,
big surprise.
No surprise. Big surprise, yeah.
Big surprise for me. I'll be the main hater of Luxembourg apparently in this video, but Luxembourg coming 5th was, again, like anything above 12 for me was a surprise, but not that it wasn't expected they are not going to qualify. Sorry?
Who voted for that song?
Apparently a lot of people.
Why don't we know the results?
Could it have been slightly the Israeli side as well when we're talking about Luxembourg? There are like clear connections, so
I think that's
not just that, but maybe it did have slight
it could have helped a bit. But I think that like Luxembourg got all the, let's call it, help that they needed. Performing last in a 15-song semi-final, being the only country that gets an interview during the voting sequence.
Yeah.
Also probably helped. Thirdly, Petra Mede asking the audience, please give them some extra love tonight. It's like, really?
So that they don't miss out on another like 50 years.
Yeah.
So.
Basically, this was a proof that like micro countries can qualify, regardless like what type of song they send. I would have happily had the 11th and 12th, so Australia and Poland instead of Luxembourg and Cyprus, but that's just my personal taste. In the second semi-final, I really wished that Czechia would have qualified, but I can see why each of the 10 countries that qualified, why they qualified. And I think if Czechia was semi-final 1, they probably would have gone through.
I don't know. Giorgio, any standouts from the semis very quickly?
Nothing that hasn't been mentioned yet. I was just going to say that there's an elephant in the room here, and that's the Netherlands. I think that given how popular the song is, they probably would have won the final televote. So Israel would have been 3rd. I feel like it would have been like that.
If they won the
televote,
the Netherlands would have gotten a large portion of the televote, and that would have lowered the points of Croatia. That wouldn't have lowered the points of Israel.
You're actually right, though. Yeah. You're actually right. Israel got way too many 12 points.
Yeah.
But still, I wonder how it would have been.
Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking of the Netherlands,
how it would have been, we would have ended up with the same winner.
Unfortunately.
100%. I mean, unfortunately, that's your taste. We would have ended up with the same winner. We would have ended up with a slightly different result. Croatia would have scored a little bit less than they did. The Netherlands wouldn't have finished higher than 5th.
Yeah, 5th.
Ukraine still would have come 3rd or 4th. Not much.
And we would still be making all conspiracies about whether the Netherlands was disqualified, what would have happened. I just want to touch up on the Netherlands quickly, just because it's being mentioned in the chat, and I want to give you guys, you talk to us, so we talk to you. The last time we talked about the Netherlands on the live stream, we didn't know if they were disqualified or not. Nowadays, we have a more clear picture of what happened. And I just want to say, personally, this is not affiliated with anyone. This is just my personal opinion. From what we've learned from Avrotros, the statement that's been issued, I think that this was a disgusting way of how to deal with what happened from the EBU side. I think we have, to my knowledge, we've never had a finalist being disqualified the day of the final over something so trivial. And in my opinion, from what we've seen, I mean, this is justice for Joost. Justice for Joost. This is,
and something unclear. We weren't given explanation.
This is completely, again, I'm talking here on my own opinion and from what we've read officially, the statement that Avrotros mentioned. If there were agreements that these participants were not going to be filmed on the way to the green room, specifically for Joost, because he is the last one to perform and he's the one who has to make himself his way quickly to the green room, those agreements were not respected by the camera person. What are you supposed to do, in my opinion?
Yeah, actually, I discussed that with Rama from Pulup as well. As I understood, they saw the incident, and he basically just pushed the camera away. That's the reason for being disqualified. I'm sorry, but okay, what? But they did also, or he did also mention that in this environment, you have to accept that you will be filmed. There will be cameras in your face, and it's just something you have to deal with, like it or not. Joost did overreact maybe, but I won't say that he crossed the line or any line. Pushing the camera away, that's not attacking anyone. That
is not sexual assault, and it's not harassment.
Please don't do that.
I have a conspiracy. I feel like the EBU did this on purpose. They were panicking at the thought of Israel or Ukraine winning, seeing the semifinal results. So they just wanted to concentrate all the televotes or the possible votes, basically, on other countries. Because I can't see any other reasons why they would disqualify the Netherlands for something like that. I mean, the Netherlands, a major country, a major public favorite, good relationships with the EBU they organized recently. I can't see why they did that.
Listen, this is where I think your theory fails. The EBU already had the jury results when they disqualified the Netherlands.
Yeah, only at 58.
And regardless of how much they had, they knew how much Israel had.
Mm-hmm.
And even if Israel would have scored over 400 points, they still wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
This is where I think your theory fails.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
So why? Like, who thought this is a good idea? Who the hell?
It still begs the question.
Why did they need that? The reputation of EBU is awful to begin with. They just basically sentenced themselves to death. This was the final nail in the coffin for a lot of people, and that was expressed very loudly and very clearly when the big boss himself was shown or mentioned. Now, those boos were not covered up with that was recorded. So now is really the last moment that the EBU has to understand, okay, maybe it's time to stand down, maybe it's time to leave and never come close to this contest ever again. Because this is just an embarrassment to the whole institution and to the contest that we know and love. So this is totally unacceptable, and they have really not said anything about why they actually disqualified Netherlands, because the reasons are very, very unclear.
I'll just be very interested to see what the police outcome of this whole thing is going to be, because the police was there. They investigated stuff. They interviewed many delegations. And the thing is that the police gave the case over to the prosecutor. So in my view, if they gave the case over to the prosecutor, they did find something. So it will be interesting to see what is actually going to be the end of this, and whether then the EBU actually had the right to disqualify Joost or not.
But
And
then
if
just
they were
make
not,
it transparent. This
if
is
they were not,
just
then
trying to
it's going to
cover
be
up
very
everything.
interesting to see how they're going to back up this disqualification.
It's an interesting point you guys both make, because I mean, I personally, I come from a southern Mediterranean country which is engulfed in corruption and no institution works. So I have no faith in no policewoman, no policemen, nor prosecutors, nothing. I don't have faith in this, because there are a lot of people who say, oh, the police, you know, the police. I don't know. But my question is, and it's actually something that Besa Kokedima, bless her, the best thing she's done all Eurovision season. She brought this point up. She said this conclusion came way too quickly for you to disqualify someone over what allegedly happened. And whether we know or we don't know, and from what we know, we're already, you know, saying, oh my God, really? This, I mean, disqualifying over that, and the time frame was so little to fully understand. I mean, it begs the question, what if by the end we find out that it was way too much of a big deal, it was making a mountain out of a mole, and y'all should have never been disqualified? Guess what? We can never take back what Joost missed on the grand final. Another Joost brings up this point here. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to put it up. If Joost doesn't get incriminated and found guilty, Avrotros will sue the EBU for 8 million euros. I don't know if that's official, but I can definitely see it happen. And I'm like, you go, Avrotros. And I've seen some reactions from the Dutch delegation and from Konrad Maas. And I definitely did not expect a Western European country to have such soured and strained relations with the EBU over something that, in my opinion, the EBU handled so disgracefully. And thank you, ESTON, for the transition, because I wanted to ask you guys, particularly Ervin, because you've been in these Eurovision streets way longer than I have, certainly, and maybe you have a bit more experience with the EBU and how they deal with things. Where does this take us with the EBU? The reputation of who's running Eurovision, the reputation of who's running Eurovision is shattered. We don't trust the organizing community. We don't trust the executive supervisor. We have questions over the reference group and their involvement in the EBU. There's questions. Should people resign?
Again, I think a lot is going to depend on this on the end of this investigation and its outcome.
Okay.
Very politically correct.
No, I'm being honest, because like, if they find him guilty for whatever, why would you fire anyone? Why would anyone need to step down if they made the correct decision?
But like the Dutch commentator said, they had, of course, a lot of discussions with the EBU, and they went to sleep knowing that everything was solved and everything was good and Joost will be on the stage. And then they wake up to discover, wait, actually, the discussions had no point because they just decided to disqualify me anyway. So they weren't even transparent behind closed doors. What do we expect?
But again, that's one side of the story.
Everyone.
Yeah, but I feel like, okay, we're choosing to say that's one side of the story for when Avrotros comment. But then when the EBU puts out an official statement
that's another side of the story.
But a lot of people don't say that that's one side of the story just because EBU officially said, you know, that's Bible. I feel like I'm talking about, you know, fans, press, people here. I'm talking in general. I feel like we're giving the EBU still way too much credit just because they run this contest. And some people need to be held accountable. I'm going to say, thank you for bringing up this point, ESTON. The stuff that changed overnight, I'm sorry, it smells of fish. Something smells really fishy to me. Ervin, I know you're not going to be fond of me for saying this, but I still think that there are a lot of things we don't know, and there could be correlations to things that we were told have nothing to do with it. And I'm just going to say, all day on Friday, everything came up to Israeli Israeli press members harassing other staff. We saw a video that came up, a confrontation with an Israeli journalist, or I don't know what he was, but he was Israeli, with Joost Klein. It just doesn't join the dots for me. You know, like when we were kids and we were given these pictures, join the dots, and you miss 3 dots, and instead of the shape of a star, you end up painting the shape of a piss on a piece of paper, and you're like, oh, wait. I'm staring at a really badly join the dots picture right now.
I mean, the delegation
you mentioned the Albatross statement, and you mentioned Colonel Maas, and they both confirmed this had nothing to do with any delegation. The EBU also confirmed this has nothing to do with any delegation. Those are the 2 sides of the story. You're inventing a third one.
I'm spraying deodorant over all of these smells of fish that I'm smelling. Just saying.
Like I told you, you have COVID.
Maybe. But with COVID, you smell nothing. With COVID, you smell nothing. I can smell it.
You have a different version of it.
Maybe Sean smells too much.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying, is it really that much of evidence that all of these things happened both of these stories? Let's say they are separate stories. The Israeli harassment to multiple artists and the Dutch disqualification. They are separate stories. But is it so much of a far-fetched maybe thought that both of these stories happened and were tackled at the same time?
There's going to be 17 other stories happening in the delegation area, and overall in Eurovision that you're never going to hear about. Happens every
Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a reason why we're not hearing about them, because they're not that big of a deal. I mean, Twitter doesn't shy away from a story. And we heard 2 stories between Friday and Saturday. This was it. If there was a third one, there was a third one that Sara Bonici was replacing Joost Klein, and that was also mentioned. But
there was a 4th one. There was also a 4th one that also Czechia was replacing the Netherlands. That they were already rehearsing.
And there were also reports that Estonia will not perform if Joost doesn't get to go on stage. And the head of delegation or the media, someone already had said that no, we're going on stage, we're performing in the final. What are you talking about? Where did this come from? So a lot of rumors spread that did not have any.
This is fake news. Estonia, this was fake news. Aiko, this was fake news. Sara Bonici, this was fake news. All of the stuff that was happening from the Israeli stylist and the Israeli journalist, this was not fake news. This was. I mean, there's a reason why so many 4 or 5 artists missed the flag parade on the 3rd dress rehearsal. They were up there telling the EBU what happened. This wasn't fake news. This was reported, and it was
at the same
very
time
well on ESTBubble.
The big difference in the case with Joost and in the case with the Israeli delegation, Joost is the main act. The stylist, etc., they're not the main act. It's Eden. Eden didn't do anything.
Well, but she has a huge team around her, doing everything for her.
So does everyone else.
Anything. Other than just this and smile to all the whistling and booing fans.
Joost didn't have to do anything either. He chose to.
I would argue.
But did he deserve to get disqualified based on what we know?
I would say he was provoked, but let's button it up on the Netherlands.
I'm gonna stick to my political correctness, as you mentioned, ESTON. I'm gonna wait for the outcome.
Wait and see for the official.
And we will wait together.
Yep.
We will wait together because I'm curious. Listen, I just want to close on this one. I just want to close on this one final point. And it's the last live stream. It's the last time we're going to be talking about Eurovision 2024 in 2024. And it wouldn't be me without. Who knows? Yeah, France's delegation is already calling up artists. It wouldn't be me without a conspiracy theory, and I feel like I've lacked those this year a lot. So, watching the results unfold, and this is our results discussion, I just want to bring up one thought that I had in my mind, and that is Switzerland winning the jury vote with a huge margin. That, you know, I was always the one saying I think Switzerland's going to win, but the margin that they won with was not expected in my opinion, and they got 12 points from 22 out of 37 countries. This is a fact. Now,
without Switzerland.
What?
Out of 36 countries without Switzerland.
Absolutely, you're right. My thought is this. I saw them getting 12s from countries all over Europe. It wasn't just Western European countries. It was from everywhere. And my thought, I'm not alleging anything here. I'm just food for thought. It just seems to me a little bit unnatural that all of these countries, particularly Georgia, and Georgia's the one in mind right now. But it's just weird to me how all of these countries give Switzerland 12 points when it's so many of them, and I mean literally 22 out of 36. It almost makes me feel like I kind of miss block voting because it seemed more natural than this gathering up and hype up one act. And I do say this as someone who was supporting Croatia, so I'm a little bit biased, but I feel like part of me thinks that Eastern Europe can never win Eurovision with these juries. What do you guys think?
During the final, I got a message from Vladana, who also told me that Vladana.
Oh,
Montenegro from 2020.
Ah, Vladana, okay.
And Switzerland was her favorite as well. I saw Maria Šerifović tweeting, and Nemo was one of the 3 or 4 acts that she tweeted about that she really liked. Alexander Rybak as well. He was also a big support. He was both a supporter of Nemo and of Baby Lasagna. So again, okay, Rybak being Norway so counts as Western Europe. Vladana, Maria, etc. These are all Eastern European, and when they also see him like as a favorite, like it makes sense to me why not just Western Europe, but also why a lot of countries and why a lot of juries from Eastern Europe also went for Switzerland.
I still feel like the margin is not justified. I feel like there were many other songs that deserved more jury points, and that margin is simply unnatural to me, especially with how the artists presented themselves. The vocals were great, a little bit too much pre-rec for the backing vocals, in my opinion. The energy was there, but you can't come and tell me that that was the one outstanding song and performance of the night. It felt very unnatural to me, and I feel like the EBU has every interest in keeping the contest in Western Europe. Croatia hosting would be more problematic because it's a smaller country, less funds. Kind of like Ukraine in 2017, the EBU had to intervene a lot to help them. I feel like they wanted to avoid that. I know that the juries are independent and everything, but at the same time, I don't believe that such a huge margin was natural, was organic.
I just have to add now here for Croatia that Croatia, for the first time in Dora, they had an international jury vote. And Baby Lasagna did not win that international jury vote in the national selection.
Well, but can you really compare the two performances?
You cannot. However, that already gives you an indication.
In Dora.
Yes. However, that's going to give you an indication that there might be countries that are not actually going to go for it.
Of course,
we're never going to have
Croatia's
that
jury
sort
vote
of
was
sensation
very
about
much
Switzerland.
deserved, and it was not really a jury bait song.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It was third in the jury, which is an excellent result.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have 50% jury, 50% televote. That's how it is, and I can totally see why Switzerland got that many points and why France was second, etc.
Same.
Mathematically, the jury is comprised of 185 people, 5 from each country. Mathematically, even from before actually the jury was reinstated in 2009, mathematically, the jury should be much more spread out. I can understand the televote because it's much more people, so it's easier to, have 300 here, 200 here. But among 185 people, it's much more natural for the points to be spread out. That's why I'm questioning how unnatural this huge margin of Switzerland is. Again, I'm not alleging that the EBU told every jury member to put Switzerland first. I don't know that, and I'm not going to support any of that thing purely because I don't know that. But I think it's important for us fans and reactors and journalists to raise these questions about the jury, because it's the second time in a row now where we've seen a huge margin that resulted in that huge margin dominating the overall vote and the jury winner winning. So clearly, if let's say the EBU wanted Switzerland to win, it's a very easy way of doing it.
But again,
whereas for the televote, you can't do it.
What do we have for the second year in a row? And I'm not saying that this played any role or it would have been different. I'm not saying that. But for the second year in a row, the semi-finals are televote only. So some jury favorites might go out, which means that the jury has less to pick from.
Yep.
Do you think
that is a factor? That is a factor.
If the jury voted in the semis, we would have had a different final.
Yeah. So
but Nemo got so many 12s that no one else would have changed that result. He would have gotten like 10 less points.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this definitely had a role, but if for the past 2 years the jury vote has basically decided the winner, and at the same time the rules changed, maybe there is a tiny bit that influence it at least.
Jesus, ESTON, we finally agree.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true. I mean, it's.
Now the season is over. The emotions are down. We can look at it objectively, or
we can finish it on a positive note.
Objectively as you can get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We can go to the next season as friends.
Yes.
Put yourself in the place when you're from home. Like, they were finding absurd the fact that Switzerland was getting all those points. The top comment under Nemo's final performance video is someone asking, is this really going to win Eurovision? And it's not like Loreen last year. It looked like a sleek professional performance of a song that was already a hit in half of Europe. This year was actually something more politically correct, I would say. Like, people were thinking, just like in 2014 with Austria, like, are the juries voting for the song or are they voting for what the artist represents?
It's a good point.
Yeah, is it like becoming America's Got Talent that you can't win when you don't have a story?
Yeah, this is awful for the
good point.
In my opinion, it looks like a circus at this point.
I have heard this from especially non-Eurovision fans, that they feel like can't just a normal performer go on stage and sing the song without any story or big overcoming or anything like that being pushed forward, and every commentator in all the broadcasters saying that this is a non-binary act and he has, or
99%
overcome all of this.
It is. Nemo pushed it on in every single interview, but nobody understood what that was. We know it because we spend a lot of time online, but the normal people don't even know what it means. And if you explain to them, they're like, "That's not a thing."
That is a great point. Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, particularly the Eastern European countries, I'm a little bit surprised. The ones that gave Switzerland 12, cross out Albania, because Albania and Switzerland traditionally give each other points. But for example, a country like Georgia, who wants to be closer to the European Union and wants to get closer to the West, I can see the Georgian delegation, which is put as a delegation by members of the Georgian public broadcaster, which is run by the Georgian government. I can see them using a Eurovision jury vote as a way to say, look at us, look at our votes from Georgia. We are liberal, we are progressive. I'm not saying that is what happened, but if that is something they want to do, and Eurovision watched by just under 200 million people. I don't know how many this year. I mean, is it that much of a crazy thought?
Azerbaijan also gave it a 12.
Yeah.
There's Georgia.
Well,
so a lot of points came from that region as well. And yeah.
Same
When
thing.
has
I
Eurovision
mean,
not been political?
Azerbaijan,
Using Eurovision to push their agenda? Really?
to my
Never heard
knowledge,
that.
yeah, exactly.
What did
Exactly.
Yugoslavia do back in the day?
Yeah.
Thank you. To my knowledge, Azerbaijan is not trying to become a member of the EU, but does Azerbaijan want to improve its image in European countries? Does Azerbaijan want to appear like a progressive state? Does Azerbaijan want to break the image that it has as a corrupt, homophobic, gender imbalanced country in Europe? Of
They
course,
need
it does.
to.
In its interest.
They're always finishing.
It's in
I
its
mean,
interest,
we can
especially
come up,
in the EU.
this is the kind of thing that like we can come up with a story for literally any country why they could have possibly voted for whoever they possibly voted for.
Yeah, we could, but
Yeah.
some stories are just better than others, and I think my stories make sense.
That's also true. But okay, that's some stories are better than others. That's what I agree on.
I mean, we could say that Georgia gave Switzerland 12 points because Nemo is attracted to women and he had sex with Nutsa Budzaladze secretly. That's also a story. Does it make sense? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Can I ask one last question?
You did say though some stories are better than others.
That is a good story, actually. That is a good story. I want to know more.
It happened in Azerbaijan and Norway, and it damn worked. So,
I want to ask.
From what I've heard, they actually still meet each other as like friends with benefits. So they're not in a relationship, but
We'll find out if Nemo makes a sudden trip to Dubai.
The girl.
we got very off track here.
Giorgio, ask your question.
What do you guys expect from next year? Like the hosting, the number of countries participating, and everything.
The drama continues.
I expect that I don't want to think about Eurovision for the next couple of months, at least until September.
Yeah, but if I have to answer that question, I don't think we're going to get more countries.
No, but what about the Netherlands?
You definitely will.
I think
We
they
will?
might be out next year.
You definitely will.
I think that
We'll
the
get more
Netherlands.
countries.
Mm-hmm.
And who is going to go to Switzerland? That's the most expensive country in the world. Like
Well,
Balkans
first
are
of
not
all-
doing that. Maybe Monaco.
First of all, you have Macedonia, who pulled out this year for the reason of celebrating 60 years of their national broadcaster, and they wanted to make a huge celebration that would have cost a lot of money.
Real reason they didn't have the money for this.
No, because they spent like a lot of their budget on that thing, but they're one of the countries that definitely want to be back next year. There was a tweet from the Bulgarian broadcaster saying that there's also a possibility that they're going to be back. So that's already true. And
Always troll.
sorry?
Bulgarian broadcaster always does that. Like they always troll like that.
Bulgaria is the one that I believe in slightly less, but Macedonia is one that I believe that is going to be back. So even if the Netherlands chooses not to participate, which I don't really see happening, we're definitely going to end up with at least one more country than this year.
What about Romania?
I genuinely don't know.
Monte
But
Carlo?
I think they could also be one of the countries that are back, but
Andorra has been talked about for years now.
Yeah.
Nothing is
It ain't
still
happening.
happening.
We would like to. Turkey, maybe?
No.
I have to admit, there was a moment when I thought that they're going to do the same thing as they did last year during the live show of semi-final 2 after Sertab Erener, after she performed, that they might announce that Turkey's back next year, which obviously did not happen. So I'm not sure that it would.
It's too politically unstable for us to know.
Why? You think Malta's politically stable? We've had 6 resignations in the last week.
At least we know that you're going to win Eurovision. You like spending money on it.
I listen about this whole countries thing, and I think we should close up on this. Me personally, I would love to have as many countries as possible at Eurovision, but every year we get rumors that Monaco's coming back, Andorra's coming back, Slovakia might have 10 cents to spend,
No.
Bosnia Herzegovina might have found a sandwich they can take to Switzerland, Turkey, you know, someone said that they like Eurovision, and all of a sudden we might come back to Eurovision. Listen, I would love to hear it, but unless I see it, I'm not gonna get hyped up about anybody. For now, I think we're gonna have 30. The Netherlands, maybe, I don't know. Could the Netherlands actually take this further and just withdraw?
I can see it, honestly.
What about Israel? Will they be allowed again next year?
Unfortunately, yes.
With this leadership, of course.
Unfortunately, yes. As far as I think, we can have 36 to 37 countries next year, unless, you know, I mean, Monaco is a member now, so I don't know. But whether or not we get 36 or 37, EBU has to do something about this. And in my opinion, the best thing they can do is find a new executive. Martin Osterdahl, I love you too. Guys, it's the end of the season. I want to thank each of you personally for being here. ESTON, always a pleasure. We had such good times in Malmö. Ervin, first year on indeed. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your presence. And Giorgio, as always, the honesty is golden. Thank you so much. And I want to say hi to Becca and to Isaac, who also joined us this season. I will be taking a break, obviously, because summer is coming. I got to get my ass back to Malta. And I have to start working because, you know, Eurovision is in Switzerland. And yeah, that's it. Subscribe if you like this stream. Check out my previous content if you want to help or not help your post-Eurovision depression. And we will be back next year. I'll try to go to Switzerland. Okay, I'll try. I will.
Right here.
Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe. See you next year. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. End stream. Jesus Christ.